The path to great leadership is paved with lessons learned, and a lot of these lessons leaders learn the hard way. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about 6 leadership lessons that you're going to learn the hard way, and some of these might shock you. So let's dive right in. The first leadership lesson you'll probably learn the hard way is that honesty is the moral hypocrisy. This might come as a shock to you because we are taught that one of the characteristics of a great leader is honesty. But here's the thing about honesty. Honesty is a human trait and characteristics. Sometimes you tell the truth, sometimes you tell a lie. The question is, when do people tell the truth? When are they honest and when are they dishonest? And if you examine human behaviors, doesn't matter how great someone is as a leader, they will be honest when they can see the outcomes, the consequences of that honesty, that there are greater advantages to them and benefits to them than there are disadvantages or drawbacks. And if the vice versa is true, telling a lie, and you know how people call it a white lie, they call it white lie. And if the consequences to telling that white lie, if there are more advantages to them or the people they care about compared to disadvantages or drawbacks, then they will choose to tell that white lie. This is principles of human behavior. So then what do I mean by honesty is a moral hypocrisy? A hypocrisy is when I expect someone to be a certain way, but I myself am not that way, then you can say that I am practicing hypocrisy. Moral hypocrisies are something of a hypocrisy, but it has an ethical component to it. We desire honesty. We think people should be honest because we think it's the right thing to do. So a moral hypocrisy means that if you expect yourself or someone else to be honest all the time, every time, for the rest of their life, forever and ever, then it becomes a moral hypocrisy because, first of all, that's not an expectation you can live up to. And that's not an expectation others can live up to either. Because the truth is, individuals are sometimes honest, and sometimes they're dishonest. Sometimes they tell the truth. Sometimes they tell a lie. Does it make them a bad person? Well, it depends who you ask. Have you ever had a situation with someone you really care about and you chose not to tell them the whole truth? Or you chose to tell them what you later on justified as a white lie. And you did it because you perceived in that moment that it would benefit them, that it would really be a loving action towards them. Translate to that workplace. I'm not going to tell them the whole truth right now, maybe later, because you can perceive in that moment that doing so is just going to not serve you. It's not going to be beneficial to you. It's not going to be beneficial to your projects or to your teams or the causes you care about and so on. So in that moment, you may choose to withhold certain things, or you may choose not to tell the whole thing, or you may choose not to say anything, and that's a lie of omission. So if you have that expectation of others, of leaders, or of yourself as a leader, then it is also a moral hypocrisy. The second leadership lesson that you'll probably learn the hard way is that management is a misnomer. So how is management a misnomer? It's because a lot of leaders confuse management with leadership. They're not the same thing. When it comes to management, management has more to do with the processes and the systems. Think in terms of checklists, think in terms of workflows. And that has more to do with management. You're managing. And you can manage people that way. Give them a process, give them an SOP to follow, give them a checklist that they need to check off every time. You can manage projects that way in terms of what's the successful workflow, what's ABCD, step 1, 2, 3, and what do we need to follow? What is the flow chart look like? Well, so that is management. Leadership is different. Leadership has to do with people. You can lead projects as well this way, but it has to do with people. Leadership is when you help that other person to develop into better versions of themselves in a way that is efficient and helps them to be independent at that growth without you there. So you can lead projects that way as well. When leaders make the mistake of using management and leadership interchangeably, that's when management becomes a misnomer, is when management is mistaken for leadership. Because let's face it, if you look at the top executives in an organization, let's just put job titles aside. These are top executives where they have experience making strategic decisions in the company. They had experience developing future leaders. They have expertise in understanding business acumen and specific industry knowledge. They have that expertise. Those individuals don't desire to be managed. In fact, they don't need to be managed, but they need to be led. There's a difference. So be careful that you are not consolidating or you're not using those words interchangeably, management and leadership. And you may have a title as a manager, you may have that title, or you may not have that title, but you have the authority. And this is where it's important to have the wisdom to discern what's being called of you right now in your relationships. Are you being required to manage, or are you being required to lead? So management is a misnomer. The third leadership lesson you may learn the hard way is that culture is a mirror. If you think about a mirror, now, I didn't get prepared. I should have had a mirror with me. So let's say I'm looking at a mirror. If I look into the mirror, I'm going to see a reflection of myself. If I take that mirror and I turn it this way, I'm going to see a reflection of whatever the mirror is facing. So culture is a mirror. It means that if you're in charge of the culture, if you set the pace of the culture, if you are the leader of that team, that culture is mirrored from what is inside of you. The character of who you are, how you conduct yourself, how you communicate, how you respond to crises, how you respond to underperformance, how you perform yourself even when no one's looking. So culture is a mirror. You can't teach culture, and it's a myth that you can change the way people behave, that you can change the way they think and change their culture. It's a myth. But what is true is that culture is a mirror. My mission is to help leaders to become great leaders, moving from good to great, moving from transactional to transformational. Whether you're leading a team or you aspire to do so, or aspire to step up into leadership, maybe I can help you if it's the right fit. So below this video, click on the first link and see what I have to offer. You are intelligent. You're capable of making the right decisions and the right investments in yourself to be able to move you to your next level. If this is something that you're serious about developing, then click the link below and we will see if it's the right fit to work with you on the inside. The fourth leadership lesson that you may learn the hard way is that work-life balance is a myth. So many leaders, even all the way to the C-suite, they come into my mentorship program, and one of the things they need help with is work-life balance. They come in and they say, I want to spend more time with family. I want to be able to go to my children's music recitals, to their dances, to their sports practices. I want to have work-life balance. I want to be able to take my family on vacations. I want to be home in time for dinner. The whole world revolves around that. There's so much information on the internet that talks about work-life balance. But here's the truth. Work-life balance is a myth, which means that work-life balance does not exist. So that might come as a shock for you. Then what can you do? How do you spend more time with family and go to your kids' practices? It's not about work-life balance. Instead, it is about work-life integration. When we talk about family, vacations, quality time with loved ones, we see that as outside of work. We see that as outside of the office. And then we see everything in the office as work, and we see everything outside of work as life. And that's where the term was created, work-life balance. But I submit to you that everything that happens in your career affects your life. And everything that happens in your life also affects your career. It affects how you show up in your career. I mean, you have been alive long enough to have multiple experiences in your life where you know this is true. Something happens to your family members, an emergency, something happens in your life. It affects your career. It affects the things that happen in your work life. You can't just separate them. That's why work-life balance is a myth. Now, work-life integration is a mindset shift where you realize the two are intertwined. You can't separate the two, so don't try to separate the two. And the reason why people try to separate the two is because a long time ago, someone invented this term, and that term stuck. And so now people all over the world are striving for this concept, only to find that it eludes them. So think about it this way. You can't have work-life balance because your life is not always in balance. Sometimes you need to be in a season of focus. Sometimes you need to be in a season of growth. Sometimes you need to be in a season of really focused learning, in which case your life is not going to be in balance, but your life is going to be in a season of that focus on that particular thing. And the sooner you recognize that and the sooner you embrace it, the sooner you can stop chasing a concept that was invented a long time ago that eludes you. So work-life balance is a myth. The fifth leadership lesson that you'll probably learn the hard way is that expectation is a multiplier. Now let's look at the word multiplier first. The root word of multiplier is multiply. And multiply is not the same thing as addition. You can either multiply or you can add. You know what happens when you add versus when you multiply. The outcomes are different. So expectation is a multiplier. Your expectation, did you know that your expectation is your greatest superpower? Whatever you expect creates your focus. It also then directs your intention. And where your intention goes is also where your attention goes. And where your attention goes, there your results will follow. So your expectation is your greatest superpower. Intellectually, you may have set goals for your career. And you may be very clear at articulating to yourself and other people what your career goals look like. But what I see a mistake that a lot of executives make is that they set goals one way, they desire one thing, but their expectation pulls them in the opposite direction. So if that's true, think about a tug of war. Which one will win? It depends which one's stronger. And usually the expectations win over. Your expectation is a multiplier. We're talking about multiplication, not just addition. So what are you expecting? Are you expecting things to work out? Are you expecting something that is unattainable? Are you expecting something that is infeasible? Are you expecting something that is right now impossible because you haven't become the person who can achieve that outcome? But you're expecting something that you don't have the capacity to do. So you see, expectations are a multiplier. The sixth leadership lesson that you will probably learn the hard way is that performance is a minimum. I am referring to your personal performance, and your company has all sorts of metrics to measure that. Where you have metrics that you discuss in your performance reviews, in your annual updates. This is based on how have you been performing. But you know, your personal performance, when they hired you, it's a minimum expectation. It's a minimum requirement. That's why they hired you. That's why they kept you there so far. So if you are focusing on performance, what you're actually doing is meeting the minimum standard. Does that make sense? Performance is a minimum. Direct your attention to the things outside of your personal performance, which are way more important to your growth and to your visibility and to the impact you make than just performance. If you look at the top executives, doesn't matter their job title, the ones that are truly making a difference that could be described as irreplaceable, they're not focused on their personal performance. In fact, you can look at them and it might seem like they don't do very much. They just seem like they don't work very hard. It's because their performance, their overall performance, has very little to do with their personal performance. Instead, they have many things that are done on their behalf. So start to think differently. Performance is just a minimum. A lot of leadership has to do with communication, and I speak a lot about communication strategies and principles on my channel. I have a video that I created recently about toxic communication habits that are keeping you stuck. That video is coming right up next. I'll see you there.